Welcome back to Christian Questions on News Talk 102.3 FM WXLM. Our subject this morning is Halloween happy. To be a part of our program, call 860-442-6102. That's 442-6102.
And Jonathan, we're looking at some scriptures that talk about the soul actually having the capability of being destroyed. And the last scripture we read before the break was in 1 Peter 3:20, talking about the flood, sort of recounting that 8 souls were saved by water. They were saved because they were on the ark. Let's go back very quickly to Genesis 7:22.
All in whose nostrils was the breath of life, and all that was in the dry land died.
Okay, so all of the other souls, and Genesis 7 goes on to say it was the souls of men and the souls of animals died. So what it's saying is that the lives of men and the lives of animals were taken away, were stopped, were ended, came to a point of ceasing to exist, not a transition point of going to someplace else.
Right.
Okay? You know, you had asked, or had said something earlier, as we were going through our discussion on going back to paganism and looking at some church traditions in terms of the days coming up, October 31st, November 1st, November 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
And the similarity, although they come from very different perspectives, the similarity between the two is the paganistic ritual is to try to communicate with and perhaps make a trip over to the world of the dead.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And the All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day was for the purpose of honoring saints who have gone before and praying for the souls of those who had not yet been fully cleansed.
Mm-hmm. Those in purgatory.
Right. If, in fact, you said, well, okay, we were talking about the idea that you're talking to the dead, but they're not listening.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not listening.
Because they're dead.
Because they can't.
Yes.
Okay? So the question is, okay, if they're not listening, is there anybody listening?
And the answer is yes.
Okay.
Someone is listening.
Okay, and it ain't a pretty picture.
Oh, no.
And that's why, if I forget to say this later, that's why when I look at the big picture, the whole onion of Halloween, okay, the whole Halloween onion, not just the outside layer, but the whole Halloween onion, I don't consider it happy. Okay, now I will say that I like dressing up in a costume every so often, and our family has done that. We've gone and had a party at my mother's house, and we go there. We have fun. Okay, but that is a sort of a little family tradition that's not founded in looking for the dead. Okay,
right.
And when you're looking for the dead and to communicate, and you're not finding it, you are finding something. And I think that's where the big problem lies. Let's take a look at this now.
Let's read Isaiah 14:12 through 14. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven, I will exalt my throne above the stars of God, I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High.
So this is the classic scripture that describes to us the motivation, the prideful approach to life that Satan, as a very high and mighty creation of God, had to ascend to be like God.
Right. Now remember, Satan applied his prideful intentions to mankind through his deception. Remember the deception?
Right.
You won't surely die?
Right. So his prideful intention was to be like God. So what he did in the garden is he usurped God's authority and said, here, follow after my thinking.
Yeah, exactly.
So he was putting himself in the place of God. This is not a good thing.
No.
Okay? And this is the beginning of the end, if you will, because the question is, okay, if the dead are dead, then who or what are we paying all of this attention to?
Who's listening?
Yeah, okay, let's go with a few more scriptures.
2 Corinthians 4:4, in whom the God of this world, that is Satan, hath blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the gospel, the glorious gospel of Christ, who is in the image of God, shall shine unto them.
Okay, so it's saying the God of this world, Satan, has blinded the minds of men.
Matthew 4:8-9, again the devil taketh him up into an exceeding high mountain, and showed him all the kingdoms of the world, and the glory of them, and said unto him, all these things will I give thee, if thou wilt fall down and worship me. Now,
Jonathan, these two scriptures are very important individually, but they really, I think, give us a very strong message when we look at them together. Because in the first scripture, 2 Corinthians 4:4, it says, in whom the God of this world. It's talking about Satan as being the God, the mighty one of this world,
Right.
blinding the eyes of men. Okay? Then in Matthew 4, 8, and 9, it's talking about Satan. Remember when Jesus, right after he was baptized, went off to fast and pray, and Satan essentially followed him, okay, and was tempting him, trying to short circuit, trying to change Jesus' set path.
That's right.
One of the things Jesus came to the earth for was to wrestle the earth back from Satan.
Right.
Because, remember the other scripture said, the God of this world.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus was there to essentially proclaim, you're being evicted.
Exactly.
Satan knows this. So in a state of physical weakness, when Jesus is fasting and praying for these 40 days, Satan takes him up to a high mountain, shows him in a vision all the kingdoms of the world. And he says, I know, and I'm paraphrasing. He's saying, I know you came for these. This is what you came for. I will give them to you.
Now.
Right now. Forget the sacrifice and the suffering that you know.
Yeah, you don't need to go through that.
All you came to claim these, they are yours. All you have to do is bow down and worship me. So Satan had the kingdoms of the world to give because he is the God of this world. And he was attempting to take Jesus off track. Now, look, if you are so audacious in your position to attempt to deceive the Son of God, then we're mincemeat.
It's true.
You know,
because he was perfect.
Right. So you gotta understand the mighty powers that are being looked at here.